Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to present to you the second part of the week for lesson. It's supposed to be discussed last time, but we have a lot of suspensions. Although I have given you activities, but those are still not enough, and we still have to discuss this so that if we ever have our long quiz and also your periodical exam, you will learn and you will have something to answer. Okay, so now let's start this. So our objective for this part, which is the part 2 of the week 4 lesson, is you're going to describe the 21st century literary genres, its structure, elements, and the traditions. And after that, you are expected to differentiate the 21st century literary genres and the ones from the original genres. And lastly, you're going to appreciate the unique features of these conventional literary genres and the 21st century literary genres by writing your own literary piece. So let's now start. And for today, again, this is the title. And first, you're going to reflect by this six line literature, and we call it flash fiction. He left and then I flew. So this is an example of a six-word flash fiction where we're in six words. You only have six words, but we're able to have our own story about this. So if you will try to ponder from this six-word flash fiction, it's just saying we already have a beginning here. He left. So that's the beginning and the rising action itself. And then I flew. So if you try to analyze, it's not just a quotation, but there's a story here. It's just that as a reader, you are the one who try to analyze the whole idea of that short or flash fiction story. For example, he left and then I flew. So when someone left you, it doesn't mean that you have to stay gloomy, but you need to fly and still chase your dreams. Or maybe you could also say he left and then I flew. I was able to reach my dreams because my burden is already lightened because he left. Maybe that. Okay. So, does the text tells a story? Why not? Yes, it actually tells a story in a short manner using six words. So, because that's a six-word flash fiction. So, does this six-word flash fiction qualify as a 21st century literary text? Yes, of course. And that is actually how our 21st century literary texts look like today. So it's shorter, it's more concise, it's better, and it actually pushes our readers to become more critical when it comes to thinking and when it comes to their creativity in writing different literary pieces. So today you're going to discover different literary pieces in 21st century literary genres. So let's start.
Hi
Let us
guys.
skip this part and let us now go to the literary genres. And first of that is the illustrated novel. And for the illustrated novel, one of the examples are from earlier, The Invention of Hugo Cabret and The Arrival by Sean Tan. So if you can observe, most of the literary pieces when it comes to this kind of genre has 50% illustration and 50% words. And if you notice, the illustrations here are more 3D, more concise. For example, the Arrival by Sean Tan, the character, which is like a platypus there, also likes a shark. So there are no sharp edges. This is not just about round edges, but sorry, there are no round edges. For example, if I want to draw a shark, so it must look like a shark. It must not look like comical. What I mean is, if you could draw a 3D figure, then draw a 3D figure for an illustration. If it seems to have a color, then so be it. So if you want to draw a man, a figure of a man, then the man must look like a man, not comical. Is that clear? That's an illustrated novel. One more thing, there is an illustration, but we should not forget the text itself. The images here must serve as a support or would also engage readers to become more critical. Is that clear? I hope it's being understood. So, some illustrated novels, although the rule is 50-50 for both illustration and text, some illustrated novels does not contain text at all, but images. For example, I have encountered this book before. I cannot remember the author. It's about the adventure to the lost island of Atlantis. There is this book before that when you open that, it looks like an adventure of you as a reader. For example, you will be given two choices there or three. If you choose this choice, then it will lead you to another page. See page this and that. There are two choices. For example, are you going to the lost city of Atlantis, or B, you're going to your parents first before going there? And then if you choose letter A, which is you go through to that choice, then a page will be recommended to you. And when you open that page, there, a situation will happen based on your own choices. And there are illustrations there that will also support your adventure according to the genre of the book. Okay, remember, it's 50-50 or it's all images. So images here or the illustrations will serve as a support. And the images is not comical, it's clear, it's 3D. So if your character, the chosen character, is somewhat like a fantasy, it must still look like a 3D illustration, three-dimensional. Okay, so let's continue to the next one, and this is DG fiction. This is closer from the illustrated novel, but this is digital itself. So when we say DG fiction, from the example of Level 2 by Anthony Izuaker and A Skeleton Creek by Patrick Carman, which is one of the New York Times best-selling author. So aside from it looks more like an illustrated novel, but it's more digital. Digifiction uses triple media literature. So it combines both the book, the movie itself, and internet website. This also means that for you to understand more the book itself, you have to read the book, and you also must navigate and read using the videos, the internet websites being recommended by the author, because it looks more of a mystery type of literary genre. So for example, let's go back. Oh, I cannot go back to the last slide. For The Skeleton Creek by Patrick Carman, you have to view a link or a video for you to understand what the mystery is. So for example, you are a detective. Your role in reading this book, you're a detective. So you have to open a link or a video being suggested as your own choice for you to get what really happened in the story. So to solve the puzzle or to solve the riddle or to solve the mystery itself, you have to open the video or you have to access the website. So this story will end also based on your own choices. But it's more digital because it uses triple media literature. So I hope you will consider the triple media literature when you try to review. Just remember, if it talks about triple media literature, then that is digifiction. I hope that is clear. Let's now go to the graphic novel. So, graphic novel, its difference from the two preceding types of literary genres, it's that comics and graphic novel looks more identical to each other. It's just that it's more American. So, for example, Archie Comics. So, Archie Comics is one of the best comics in New York, and it's actually written by John Goldwater and drawn or illustrated by Bob Montana. So that's the best example of a graphic novel. So to further understand this more, graphic novel is a narrative work in which a story is conveyed to the reader using a comic form. And the term is employed broadly manner, encompassing nonfiction works and thematically linked short stories as well as fictional stories across a number of genres. So that's the twist. Graphic novel is not just about fiction. It can also encompass nonfiction works, but in a comical and graphical way. Do not be confused with graphic novel and digifiction because digifiction is more of fiction. It does not encompasses non-fiction works, but graphic novel can do that. But the best example, Archie Comics is more like a fictional story, but it depicts fiction-like themes itself. Okay, class, I hope you understood this. Now let's go to the manga. So when we say manga, it's a Japanese word for comics. Yes, it's included in 21st century literary genres. And for this, when you have encountered um a manga, but it's made by Americans, we call it Ameri manga. So the one earlier we had the graphic sorry the graphic, what do you call this, the graphic novel itself, we can also call it a merry manga. But here, when you say a merry manga, it's more fictional than the graphic novel itself. So manga, it came from the Japanese. Yes, this is originally from Japan, and we use only the word manga to refer to the speaking world as the generic term for all comic books and graphic novels that were originally published in Japan. So one of these, oh, we actually have five. I can see the camera. The five manga, and we're going to discover that first. The shonen, we call it the boys manga. So usually, young boys are watching this. So this more of fantasy. Bleach, One Piece, Naruto, Shippuden. There's so many right now. Hunter x Hunter, which looks like more and more episodes. So yes, class, before it became an anime, it's a shonen. It came from a book written and illustrated by a Japanese author. So that's shonen. Remember this? It might be included in our quiz. Next is shoujo. We call it the girls manga. So it's the counterpart of shonen, wherein it's a boys manga. Shoujo is the girls manga itself. And seinen. So for more mature themes, if more adventurous, just like Akira, so it's what we call men's manga. We call it seinen. And for women's manga, the counterpart of seinen, we have josei. And for the children's manga, which is most of us makes it our favorite, the kodomo, or what we call the children's manga. And one of the examples of children's manga or kodomo is the Doraemon and Hello Kitty. Yes. So the ones that we make as children's cartoons already actually came from Kodomo. So what we watched on TV or online that looks like cartoon, they are original written as children's manga by these authors. And those that were published or presented, produced as uh, an anime, they are actually originally from seinen, shoujo. Those things were from those animes were came from those types of manga, the seinen and the shoujo. Okay, let's continue with the doodle fiction. So, the doodle fiction is actually a literary presentation where the author incorporates doodle writing and drawings. Again, so doodle writing, doodle writing, and drawings and handwritten graphics. So imagine, so doodle writings and combined with handwriting graphics, we're going to use our drawings, our stickmans if possible, in order to produce an illustrated stories. So one of the best examples of doodle fiction is The Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney and Timmy Failure by Stefan Pastis. So one of my other classes also mentioned Peanuts. Yes, that's also an example of the doodle fiction. So let's take a look of this here. So there it goes. It's actually a novel, and one of my favorite here is The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Because here, class, it's a story of a wimpy kid himself. And it's his own diary. So this novel is or doodle fiction, it's not just like a story, but it's a diary of this kid. And his diary is really funny. For example, he's trying to talk about his life at school when they have an assignment. One of his diary for a day is they had an assignment. It's it's an egg that they have to take care as their own child, and they he has a partner, um but they were able to crack the egg. They accidentally cracked the egg, so they find a way to replace that egg, and they replace that with a stone and draw it just like their original egg baby. So they passed that, but the worst case is they were discovered that their egg is not an egg but a stone. And they were caught by the principal's office. So their parents were called. They actually thought before that they passed, and they were not caught of making a stone their own baby egg. So that's actually funny. So I hope you try to read this Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Okay. So again, this is doodle fiction. Next, text talk novels. I think today this is also known as AU or UI. I don't think so. So these text talk novels, we also have these from blogs, email, IM format narratives. So these are stories that told almost entirely in dialogue, simulating social networking exchanges. So to be more clear, text talk novels is just like having your own story through a messenger or a social network exchange. For example, this one. You can pause this to understand. If you were able to watch the movie Vince, Kath, and James, when Vince and Kath are going to exchange messages to each other through messenger or through text, and their love story revolves around this conversation through social network exchange, then that's an example of a text talk novel. Okay, let's continue. Chick lit or chick literature. From its word chick, chick lit. So just remember this genre fiction addresses issues of modern womanhood. That means the character here is feminine, the character here is female. So ang bida dito, our protagonist is the female character. So it typically features a female protagonist whose femininity is heavily thermalizing in the plot. So most of the theme here is humorous and light. There will come a time that the protagonist will encounter a problem, but eventually will pass that conflict and will have a happy ending. So if we try to connect this with the traditional genre literature, the genre of chick lit is a comedy. Okay, not a skit, okay? We're in. Okay. As long as there is a happy ending, we call it comedy. I hope remember that. And chick lit is connected to that comedy as a traditional form of genre. For 21st century lit, chick lit has a female protagonist and it ends happily. So one of the best examples of chick lit is The Night Before Christmas by Scarlett Bailey, and it started with a kiss by Miranda Dickinson. So if you are intrigued by this, you can search through the internet, and it actually has its own movie now, The Night Before Christmas, and it started with a kiss by Miranda Dickinson. Next is the flash fiction. So earlier I have given an example from the very beginning, the six-word flash fiction. So here the flash fiction is it's almost the same for the brevity. When I say extreme brevity, it's very concise, it's very short, and still the style is fictional. So there is no widely accepted definition of the length of the category. It could actually range from one word to 1,000. So, but for me, if I require you to write a flash fiction, I would only tell you to write 50, 25 to 50 words. So, for flash fiction, if I required you 50 words, I hope that your exposition, your rising action, your climax, your falling action, and your denouement or resolution must already have these parts of the plot. So in 50 words, you have to complete the parts of your plot. Okay. So for example, this one, The Gratitude by Andrew E. Hunt. So the streetlights were a warm welcome from the oncoming chill of darkness. So this actually is the part of the exposition, the beginning of the story. The park's bent's curvature felt familiar under his tired old spine. This part is the rising action wherein the character is now really familiar with the bench curvature. The wool blanket from the Salvation Army was comfortable around his shoulders, and the pair of shoes he'd found in the dumpster today fits perfectly. So that is the climax and the falling action. And the character said, God, he thought, isn't life grand? So if you try to ponder and understand this flash fiction, it's actually from who? What character? Yes, I hope you're answering and you're reading. The character of Gratitude by Andrew E. Hunt are the man from the streets, the beggar. It's actually a beggar who is acknowledging all the blessings that was given to him, although he's a beggar. For example, although the darkness came, he can sleep in the park at the bench. And what he is more grateful is that he was able to find a comfortable shoes, and there is a blanket around his shoulders. And his shoes that he found from the dumpster, it fits his feet perfectly. So he really thought that life is already grand, although he only received those simple things in life. So actually, this literary text, this flash fiction, wants us to realize that just from the little things, people are already grateful and that we are already blessed for what we have that others do not have. So I hope that's clear. And another one, life story, you can understand this by taking a picture. Try to realize this. Okay, this is the life story. And now let's go to the six word flash fiction. So for the six word flash fiction by Ernest Hemingway, for example, six words: for sale, baby socks, never worn. And Margaret Atwood, long for him, got him. There you go. So just for six words, you were able to make your own story. There is already a plot just from those six words. Okay. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. Six words, and Ernest Hemingway was able to make his own story out of that. So as a reader, if you will try to read the six words flash fiction, you will think that maybe it's just a quotation. Or if you think about this story, maybe the baby um has not the same exact size of the shoe size. That's why they're giving it away, or they're trying to sell it. But if you try to understand this more, it actually says that the baby is already gone. That's why the parents decided to sell the shoes, because it's never worn, because the baby died. Okay. Now, long for him, got him. There you go, that word. So if you try to analyze, there's already a story here. So if you ever experience that you long for someone for long years or a long time itself, but when you experience living with that person, you felt like it's hell. That's why the ending is, there you go, this word. Because for long years, or for the longest time, that you wanted to be that person, and when you got that person, it felt like hell. So you've had now the regret at the end. So that is actually what Margaret Atwood would like to present from the six word flash fiction. So I hope in your quiz you will also be able to make your own six word flash fiction. Okay, so let's now to go to the creative nonfiction. Remember, this is nonfiction, and you just got the literary styles and techniques from fiction. That's why it became creative, but it's nonfiction. So this genre, creative nonfiction, it's still relatively young and is only beginning to be scrutinized with the same critical analysis. It's still new, and it's given to fiction and poetry. So most of the style of making or writing creative nonfiction, it has a literary style and technique from fictional literary pieces. So for example, the 1000 Gifts by Anne Voskamp and Wind, Sand, and Stars by Anton de Saint-Exupéry. So let's see here. Here. So usually creative nonfiction stories are, do you know self-help books? These books will guide you about how to navigate life, or it talks about real life experiences. So these are self help books. So these actually are what we call creative nonfiction. This depicts real life scenarios, or examples are real, situations are real, but the literary techniques and the literary techniques are all fictional, but the content is actually came and depict from real life scenarios. Okay, now let's go to science fiction. It's different from creative nonfiction because creative nonfiction is real, but it uses literary techniques and devices from fiction. But here, it's fictional, but it takes the elements of sciences. So it's a genre of speculative fiction dealing with imaginative concepts but uses futuristic science and technology itself. For example, space travel, time travel, so parallel universe, extraterrestrial life. So when we talk about parallel universe, if your story talks about reincarnation, aliens, going to different dimensions, so if your story is like that, so it can actually tackle futuristic sciences and technology, so that literary text is a science fiction. So the example of this is the Mockingjay, Kingdom of Ash. So if you were able to already watch the movie The Hunger Games, so that is actually an example of science fiction and many many more. Let's now go to the blog. Before vlog or video log existed, we have blog itself. So it's different from a video log because again, it's a web blog. It's a text. So it's a website containing short articles called posts that are changed regularly. So one of the best examples and accurate examples of a blog are travel blogs. So before vlogs or video vlogs about travels, we have blog before. Just like this. So for example, well traveled a guide to Seattle. So if you clicked if you click I mean this part, you will able to read why you need to visit this lush green Pacific Northwest city, the Seattle. All the reasons that you want to know why you have to visit this city, you're going to see that here. For example, if you'll change, um, let's travel to Bohol, an island of lush greeneries, tropics, and places to visit with. So if you click why you need to visit Bohol, then you will be able to read all the reasons, all the pictures that you need to see so that you will be encouraged to go to that place. So we have that blog. So I hope that's clear. Next is hyper poetry. It's actually a digital poetry that uses links. Okay, that uses links using hypertext markup, and it can either involve set of words, phrases, lines that are presented in variable order, but the page is much as traditional poetry does. So it actually uses only the hypertext. So I would let you see an example. It's actually found online here. So if you try to click a title of a poetry, and then you will see this shape itself. So this is hyper poetry. For example, let me try to erase this. I can't erase. Here. Okay, there you go. I asked for the sun. So that's the beginning. I asked for the sun. I was given your smile. I asked for the stars, and I was given your eyes. I asked for the moon, and asked for the sea. I asked for the world, and you were given to me. Okay. I hope you understood this. So, pause na lang kung gusto pang basahin ulit. Okay, now it's time for our modern time writer.